I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Lake Forest Community High School District 115 Board of Education for April 12th, 2011. May I have a roll call, please?
Here. Mr. Edson?
Here.
Mr. Block?
Here.
Mr. Scribner?
Here.
Mr. Burgener?
Here.
Mr. Carey?
Here.
Mrs. Golan?
Here. Thank you. And I'd like to say welcome to everyone. I'm going to start with the President's Report. And since this is the end of the school year as well as the end of an era, this being Dr. Griffith's last meeting with us, there was some housekeeping we wanted to take care of. So I'm going to start with just a little bit of history. As you are aware, our board meetings are held here in this boardroom at Lake Forest High School West Campus. This building has been something of a white elephant over the years. It started out as a high school, which Mr. Burgener is familiar with, for the underclassmen at Lake Forest High School. And when the population numbers went flat, the building was vacated. In the late 80s, early 90s, the District 67 community saw a rise in its student population, and the stresses on the 3 elementary schools and the junior high had to be relieved. Unfortunately, with this high school building sitting empty, that administration and board did not feel they could ask the taxpayers to fund a new elementary building. And so instead, District 67 rented space in this school from the high school and moved the 4th and 5th graders over here. The setting was not ideal for our little folk, which is what Principal Rosemary Frichet called them. They couldn't reach the shelves in the high school lockers, and they couldn't reach the tables in the science labs. When, once again, the District 67 population began to outgrow the buildings, it became evident that a permanent solution was necessary. Under Dr. Griffith's leadership, the elementary and middle schools were refurbished to meet the needs of the K-8 students, and the district vacated the West Campus High School, leaving it once again empty and falling into disrepair. Not knowing just what to do with the white elephant on Waukegan Road, the high school board made a decision to tear the building down. However, the cost to do even that was around $1.5 million. And so instead, the remaining renters were asked to leave, the school was boarded up, and a chain link fence was put up to further close off the building. And then along came Harry. Dr. Griffith became the shared superintendent of District 67 and 115. Now it was the high school that suffered from overcrowding, and relief was needed. We had on our hands an overcrowded and outdated building on the east of town and a boarded up, clearly outdated building to the west. With ingenuity and vision and the help of our voting taxpayers, the East Campus was remade. At the same time, the West Campus was reborn. Today it houses the administration offices for 2 districts, which freed up much needed space for classrooms in both districts. In addition, we have renters here: Cedal, Little Scouts, Citadel Theater, and the Loomers, which I'm not sure what that is. West Campus generates close to $250,000 a year in non-tax revenue, and that amount will increase to $400,000 per year in fiscal year 15. Good job. So we thought we would do a little bit of, cosmetic changes just to finish the job, and came up with this one idea, if you would look up on the board. As you enter the building, well, no, we're not going to do that. That looks... We thought we could welcome people when they come to West Campus, and we have up here the insignia of District 67 of Lake Forest High School and also the Sally Potter School. But in addition, we thought it would be proper to go ahead and name the Administration Center after our retiring visionary, Dr. Harry Griffith, and replace the paper sign that's out in the hallway with a plaque. Next slide. And here's how it would look once you entered the Administration Center. So, Dr. Griffith, this is a gift from both boards of education and a thank you from the community for what you've done over the last 18 years. He's not saying anything.
Wow, I'm just sort of speechless. Well, I did want to say something. Well, this is my last meeting with the high school. And quickly in my 8 years with the high school, but prior to that I was a parent, like some of you in the audience are. What a wonderful place. And I told our high school teachers that I'd never worked with a group quite like them before. And I don't know, it's just been magic. Of course there are problems, and we look for perfection, and that never happens. But I'm so proud of our Lake Forest community. We've got the best kids. We've got amazing kids. Our faculty, and to our board of education. And I've worked with a lot of board members here at the high school. I actually literally had like 13 board members my first 3 years. But in every single case, they have been wonderful, wonderful citizens of our community. And I know our caucus is a big part of that. Wow, I'm sort of overwhelmed by this. I'm sorry. You should have given me a little heads up, Sharon.
No.
It is with a full heart that I say how much I will miss all of you. We talked about, my last day is going to be Tuesday the 26th. But literally, my last day, I told Jay Hoffman, I said, Jay, I'm going to come over to the high school. I'll actually not be working that day, and I want to walk one more time through the building with you, because that's where it started. In 2004, Lake Forest High School was crammed, overcrowded. There was a lack of planning. These board members really triggered a major change. And I can't tell you what a career-ending, awesome opportunity this was to work with people like you, Brad. And I know that may sound trite here maybe to you or others, but it's real. And I'm very proud of this building. We had an 8-foot chain link fence with yellow tape all around this building. And now it's vibrant, it's thriving with teachers and students, and it's a place for our community. And our business office, Alan Albus and others, oh my gosh, the job we've done here. So every day to get out of the car and walk up to this building, every day I would drive, Sunday I could drive by this building and look. Jim Carey, you said it. We can do this with pride in who we are and what we've accomplished. But it's always a team effort. It's never really about me. Okay, I helped trigger a lot of this, but I didn't do it. It was the people to my left and right. And how many of you out here as citizens in our community that can be so proud of that too? So, board members, I cannot imagine a more wonderful exit for you to do that. I totally didn't expect that at all. I just thank you. Thank you so much.
I want to give a special thanks to Alan Albus, who helped with the surprise and the drawings. So anyway, that concludes the President's report. And with that, we will move on to the Superintendent's report.
Okay. Wow. Principal Jay Hoffman.
Well, I'm going to turn it back to you because Harry's been here 8 years, so we've had 8 graduations, and the first one was at Northwestern, but the last 7 were on the front lawn, and 7-0 on nice days, so take it away.
We'll tell you, board members, that how it happened was, and Brad, you were there, I got the staff together, the students voted unanimously, let's graduate in front of the high school. Not at Ravinia, not at Northwestern, where parents would sit in the rafters, but our staff was like, whoa, wait a minute, we don't have the chairs. I said, okay, you're in charge of the chairs. We don't have the sound system. I said, you're in charge of the sound system, et cetera, et cetera. And finally, of course, the coup de grace was what? the weather's not going to cooperate. And I just said, I'm in charge of the weather. That is not your job. Don't worry about that. You take care of this, 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 and this, and I'm doing the weather. Well, we've gotten lucky, haven't we? It is 7-0, and not the most perfect Saturday of the year. Not just this month, the year was this last Saturday for our high school graduates. 445 students going off to more than 150 colleges and universities across America. I did call Mike Simic, and I said, Mike, nobody told you this, but your last duty to know about is that you are in charge of the weather for high school graduation. And I heard this long pause on the phone. And he said, Harry, what's the contingency plan? And I went, no, we don't have that. We don't need that. This is our graduation. So may it never rain on Mike Simic's graduation. And I want to thank our staff again, and parents and our seniors for what a wonderful. By the way, any seniors here in the audience here tonight? Nope. Yeah, you're right. This would not be seniors because of this project. I also want to do a shout-out thank you to the Richmond family for an amazing charitable contribution. And by way of just quick reference to that, I'd like to cast Dr. Julie Cooley to step up and say a few words to us, Board, about the Community Wellness Task Force that is now underway in our community. In light of the tragedies we've had in our community this year, I think we've got the beginnings of a good report here in terms of how our community is pulling together to do something meaningful. So just very briefly, Dr. Cooley will do that.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Griffith, and good evening, board members. As I've kept you informed, and you've been informed in a variety of different ways, that the first step in our community's response was to look at an assessment, a broad assessment of what our resources are currently in the community, and then use a mental health expert to help us design a short-term and a longer-term strategy. And the very first step in that was to get community members together, and this happened last Thursday, June 7th. We had over 70 individuals representing about 19 different organizations or stakeholders in the community. We had a large group of parents with students or just community members. We had a few current students, some graduates. Lake Forest College was represented, including the students and the faculty, along with every other organization in the community. We were welcomed by John Popley, who had donated the space at the graduate school. Monty helped out with that. And then Tom McAfee, president of Northwestern Lake Forest Hospital, also welcomed the group and thanked us for the work we had ahead. Then we spent an entire day working, like almost every minute of that day, listening to Darcy Hutchins out of Johns Hopkins telling us about research on partnerships and how valuable that would be to our process going forward. We also, she also presented research out of, I can't think of what the reference is, on affluent communities and how that puts our students at risk in terms of mental health, depression, and suicide. We also looked at information that came out of Palo Alto and their response to a similar situation a few years ago and how their community rallied together around a safety net project. And then we spent a full hour with Dr. Mark Reinecke, the head of the Feingold Medical School Psychology Division, who gave us a lot of great information, not only about what the issues are, but also about current best practices, up-to-the-minute research on assessments and strategies that could potentially help us move forward. We're going to gather all the information from that day now. It'll go back to Dr. Reinecke and a small group from the task force, and then go back to the task force through a number of iterations until we come up with a strategic action plan. But it seemed as though all the right partners were there, and everyone's quite enthusiastic to be helpful in this process.
Any questions from board members or audience? All right. Thank you, Dr. Cooley.
Oh, I could mention one other thing. We featured, again, we are working every minute of the day, and we included in our lunch period some student inspiration. We actually had 3 different student videos, 2 of which were edited by a student in the room, Strawn, and I don't know your last name, I'm sorry. Strawn Dixon. was responsible for 2 of the videos. One was about Enjoy the Journey. Another was about a Race to Nowhere version in Lake Forest and the pressures our students face in the college admissions process, which have been amped up in recent years. He did a great job in exploring that topic. Lastly, we had a video done by Kelsey McAfee, who did a remembrance of the student tragedies, and it was quite touching. We had to take a break afterwards. It was very emotional. So, but it added to the day to hear that student voice.
All right, thank you, Julie. And once more time, let me just thank the Richmond family for their generous donation to Lake Forest High School of $25,000 to help us with this initiative at the high school, too. All right, that concludes the superintendent's report.
All right, thank you, Dr. Griffith. Now we have public participation. If there's anyone in the audience who would like to ask the board a question that, or make a comment on something that's not on tonight's agenda, please step forward. And if you would give us your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Gary Pete. I reside at 515 Valley Road here in Lake Forest. I noted with some interest an article that appeared recently in the Lake Forest Patch on May the 31st describing the progress on the Diamond Anniversary project. I noted that not many people from the school board were actually quoted, but it left one with the impression that the project was already done, the contract was let, and the facilities would be built in the next 2 months. I'm hoping the board might enlighten me on where the present circumstances are with the project and how they're addressing the issue of the validity of the pledges from the Diamond Anniversary Fund.
Thank you, Mr. Pete. I will answer that because there is some misinformation in the community, but when the board met, we voted to go forward and have the bids for bidding, and that's really the extent of it. There will be a special meeting. We haven't posted it yet. We're just trying to work on the date, probably next Tuesday early in the morning so that our board members can get off to the office. But I will turn it over to Mr. Albus to go ahead.
Bids were actually open today on the project, so there's what's called scope work on that tomorrow to make sure that the bids are quality bids, and then they will be compiled. We will probably be looking at a meeting early next week to look for consideration and approval of the bids, consideration and approval of a construction manager contract, review and approval of a financing strategy, and a review and approval of a contract or a memo of understanding with the Booster Club. And that document, because that's in the draft form right now, that does address what you're talking about with the issue of the pledges, the quality of the pledges and the review of the pledges. So nothing has been awarded as of this date, just design documents in a bid, and those came in today. They were under budget, with one alternate being accepted by about $20,000. So that's the status.
Yeah, maybe if I can just comment further to help give you a little bit further background, Gary. Correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is the district has not spent any money on this project to date. All of the engineering and design work that's been done to date has been 100% funded by the Boosters Club. As President Golan mentioned when we last met as a board to discuss this issue, I think it was May 23rd, we were asked to approve going forward to the next stage, which was going to be issuing requests for proposals and going through a bid opening that was going to cost neither the boosters or us any money. And so we approved that step and that step only. And so that's where we are, as Alan mentioned. We're likely to have a board meeting next week to consider the proposal in its entirety, including financing, the issue you mentioned, I think, quality of the pledges, potential securitization of those pledges, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're in the process of negotiating final terms with the Booster Club, and we'll see what gets put on the table next week.
Thank you, Mr. Block. Anyway, the meeting will be open. It's a special meeting, but it is open, and if you watch the high school website, it'll be posted appropriately, and you'll have time and place. So, thank you. Anyone else with questions or comments? All right, then moving on, we have our first report, and that is the Student Exchange Program with No. 2 High School of East China Normal University. Dr. Griffith?
Yes, board members, I'm really delighted tonight to Kelly, you can go ahead and come on up. I'm going to do just a 2-minute introduction by telling you how proud we are, not only of our Mandarin program, but the expansion of our Asian Studies program at Lake Forest High School also. I don't think a lot of people know that we have a teacher exchange program with a school in the Netherlands. And now we have a student exchange program that's been going on for short cultural experiences with Shanghai High School number 2 in Shanghai, China. And what I'd like to do is just to quickly show our audience and members of our community and I think if somebody could get those lights for that side of the room, that would help. Shanghai High School number 2 is one of the 10 best high schools in China. It is called a key school. They identify the 10 best. This is a public boarding school. 5 years ago, I went back a second time to China, funded by the Chinese government, with the president of District 67 Board of Education, Mark Mitter, and our assistant superintendent, Mike Cyrus, our personnel HR man. And after having visited at least a dozen schools, one time on our first tour, including this time, finding this school was just a wonderful thing. Just flip the pictures, just a couple of quick pictures. Just wanted you to see, oh, look, there's an artificial surface fill. Anyway, really a beautiful school. It's brand new. It's on out a little bit on the outskirts of Shanghai itself, and had a chance to walk through the dorm rooms. You're looking at some dorm buildings there also, as well as their academic. This is the highest performing high school in a metropolitan area of 20 million people. And I just knew that our Lake Forest High School kids would be a great match with these students. Wonderful kids. And board members, I think I'm delighted to present Kelly McGee, who is here with some of our students to talk about their experience, because not only is it a great group of high school students, about the same size, 1,500, 1,600 at Shanghai number 2, but it's a great match with our kids too. So thank you for coming here tonight, everybody, and I look forward to hearing this. Kelly?
Okay. Wan Shanghao. My name is Kelly McKee, and I'd like to introduce the students who were with me in China this spring. If you guys would all like to come up forward, please. Okay, so why don't each of you introduce yourselves real quickly? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
My name is Wiley Hardy, and I'm going to be a junior this year at Lake Forest High School.
I'm Ryan Wang, and I'm also going to be a junior.
I'm Strand Dixon. I'm going to be an uprising junior.
I'm Catherine Thomas, and I'm also going to be a junior.
I'm Annie Belgrade, and I'm going to be a senior this year.
I'm Aisha Muratoglu. I'm going to be a junior.
Hi, I'm Robert Napier, and I'm going to be a senior next year.
So what we'd like to do is share a few photos from our trip and talk a little bit more about the sister school that Dr. Griffith was just mentioning. After that, we have a very brief video that Strand Dixon, our filmmaker, put together. He's actually in the process of making a huge production of the exchange program, but this is just a little snippet to give you an understanding. And then I've asked the students to share a little bit about what this program means to them. So our school, Lake Forest, is now sister schools with the Shanghai School. In Chinese, it's called Huadong Shifan Da Shui, Di Er Fu Shu Zhong Shui, which basically means number 2 secondary school of East China Normal University. Now, this school is a remarkable place. And this is a map of Shanghai. It's approximately 19, maybe 20 million people who live there, a little bit bigger than Chicago. This river that runs through the city divides the location of what's called Pudong on the east side to Puxi on the west side. Xi means Western Chinese, Dong means east. Our sister school is in Pudong. It's in the Jiangjing high-tech district. So it's where all the big companies are located, and it's a quick 20-minute subway ride into the downtown part of the city. Okay. I apologize, this was a little out of order. When we arrived in China, we were met by the students at the airport, And we were able to take a ride on what is called the maglev train, one of the fastest trains in the entire world. It goes 400 kilometers per hour. It was a really neat experience. I think everyone would agree. And we took that to the subway, in which we took a subway ride right into the school, where we spent our entire first week of our trip in Shanghai with the kids in the dormitory school. So this is an early morning. We got up every morning rather early to watch the early morning exercises that would take place out on the green turf. And this is something that's required of all the students in the school before they go to their first period class. So we were out there watching them and sometimes actually participating with them as well. Every morning we would have breakfast together in the cafeteria, and very traditional Chinese style breakfast, and it was quite enjoyable. So we did a lot of sightseeing in the city of Shanghai. We spent a lot of time with the students who we hosted in October, and really got a good sense of what it's like to live in this massive mega city. Here we are outside the Shanghai Museum and Urban Planning Museum. Shanghai is actually the sister city to Chicago, and recently Rahm Emanuel has really been promoting a great deal of exchange and travel opportunities between the two cities, which is really quite a neat thing. Here we are at night walking down Nanjing Road, and that was really a fun experience as well. So the entire first week we stay in the city at the sister school. We get to visit old historic buildings such as the Bond. This is called the Peace Hotel. It used to be called the Cathay Hotel. It's been under renovation for the past 8 years. It just opened this spring, so we actually got to go inside of it and see the interior, which is a really neat thing. Spent a lot of time in the Pudong area. This is the Shanghai World Financial Center right here, the tallest building in China and in Shanghai today. This is the Shanghai Tower. It's under construction. It'll be done in about 2 years. It's actually being built by a Chicago architectural firm downtown at the Santa Fe building. Just some more images of the city. We'll go through these relatively quickly. The Shanghai World Financial Center actually houses the world's largest observation deck. So we spent some time up there, taking a look at the city. Evan Richards and his wife Laura were our other chaperones. They were fantastic and wonderful to travel with. And these are our students with their exchange, Chinese exchange students. There's Pierce and Abby and Catherine and Strawn and Wiley and Aisha and Annie. And just a few images of Hangzhou, and then I'll have the students speak. We actually visit 4 cities when we're in China. We're in Shanghai. We go to Hangzhou for an overnight visit. We fly out to Xi'an, which is in central China. We stay there for a few days. And then we take an overnight train to Beijing, and we stay in Beijing for the final duration of our trip. Hangzhou is a beautiful, beautiful city, which you can tell by the photographs. In China, they have a saying that there are two cities of paradise on earth, and one is Hangzhou and one is Suzhou. So we visit one of them, and they're both within a 3-hour distance of Shanghai. And this is a really neat treat. Unfortunately, it did rain during one of the days that we were there. We visit a tea plantation. This is where Dragonwell tea is grown, one of the best quality teas you can buy on the mainland. And then, of course, we come back into the city, and we do a little bit more sightseeing. This is called the Oriental Pearl Tower, and the sister school takes us to a lovely dinner at the very top of the Pearl. There's a restaurant. It's a revolving restaurant at the top level, which is really quite neat. And these are our kids up on the observation deck. This is sort of like the ledge of the Willis Tower. If you've ever been to the ledge, we actually copied it from them. They've had this for quite some time, but we had a lot of fun hanging out on the ledge and enjoying our food. It's Wiley doing a handstand. So this is us at our next stop. This is in Xi'an, our group shot, and I'm going to allow the students to share a few words with you.
I guess I'd just like to share that the 2 weeks that I spent on the China exchange program were both some of the best weeks I've spent and also the ones that have changed my life the most. Before I went to China, I definitely had an interest in studying history and studying the world around me. But I remember experience on the Great Wall, and everyone's heard of the Great Wall, but when you get up on that thing and you see literally thousands of miles of man-made structure that are hundreds of years old, it really changes you. And that was the moment that I really realized that international stuff is something I want to do in my life. And I don't think there can really be anything that can match the China exchange program, and something that can teach you a new cultural experience, offer you that opportunity to bond with a foreign student, and also bond with your fellow classmates. It's an opportunity I'd really like to thank the China exchange program for, and something I'd really like to share with my fellow students going forward. Thank you.
I just have to say, you sound just like your dad. I feel like I was listening to your dad.
Hi. For me, I think I definitely realized that one of the most valuable things that we could have is such a solid understanding of a different culture that we do now after our trip. Because I myself have been studying Mandarin at school since the program started, so going on 5 years now. And I thought I was pretty good at it until we got there, and then it was a little overwhelming. But just knowing what I did, the bits and pieces of language and the cultural understanding that we had really was really helpful in making these connections with other people like our exchange students and building relationships that I really hope to continue for a long time.
The LFHS China Exchange Program opened my eyes to many things. One of them is definitely the understanding that culture and Lake Forest, the combination of those two things is very important. I think China is an amazing place, and it'd be awesome if future students who are going to be coming through Lake Forest High School could have the opportunity to go there as well. Thank you.
I just want to talk about what our parents called the SRS diet. It was the steamed rice and Sprite diet, because after 2 weeks of being in China, we were all kind of a little sick of the food. So we stuck to the two things we knew what they were, which were steamed rice and Sprite.
I just want to talk about when our students were here. I feel some of the other students have traveled around the U.S. quite a bit, whereas the Chinese students, they had never been out of Shanghai, most of them. So coming to America, that was very different with them. So it was a blast to show them all these different foods, like Mexican food and their version of our version of Chinese food, which they said was totally different. I think we can all agree it definitely is different. But showing them here, we took them to a football game, and showing them like our customs and what we do for fun was really different because they had never experienced anything like that. So I thought it was a great opportunity.
I would just like to say that this exchange program, it's absolutely unbelievable, and it's definitely something that a lot of people in our school should go through. As I've traveled to several places in Asia, and there was nothing like what I saw in China. And another thing about it is just the application of history that we've been learning for so many years. When we actually went over there, it was just indescribable, the experience, actually seeing what you've been learning about in your textbooks, and it was absolutely surreal. Thank you.
Before we embarked on this trip, Ms. McKee showed us a presentation similar to this one. In that moment, I had goosebumps. I went home to my parents that night and I said, Mom, Dad, I really want to go on this trip. And then I started filling out the application that night. I knew it was going to be a great trip, but I had no idea it was being as incredible as it was. It was completely eye-opening. All 11 of us were exposed to a land completely foreign and unique to our own. A culture is completely different. And I am forever grateful, and I believe I speak on the behalf of all fellow students when I say we're all grateful. Therefore, we would like to thank the board members and, of course, Ms. McKee for her hard work for this great opportunity. Thank you so much.
So in Chinese, one would say, xie xie. And honestly, Dr. Griffith, the school board, Sharon and all the school board members, I'm very, very grateful that you have given our students the opportunity to explore a new country, make amazing friends, lifelong friends forever with our sister school in Shanghai. It really means a lot to me, and I know it's made a big difference in the lives of our students and our community. So I do want to say thank you. Do we have time for a brief video? Is it okay? Okay. Strawn, do you want to help me get this up?
Spoiler. Restart it.
Should we put the mic down there?
Strawn,
Well, say if just a word about how, because it wasn't, how were the students selected? I think
Yeah.
that's a little interesting too.
We had an overwhelming response of students who really wanted to participate in the trip, but we only had a certain number of spaces. And so the students went through an interview process. They wrote essays. They had teacher recommendations. And then it was very, very, very difficult to select 12 students out of the number who applied. I vividly remember Strawn's interview asking him, Strawn, why do you want to go to China? Well, Ms. McKee, I really want to make a film about China. Strawn's an aspiring filmmaker, and so we're definitely making his dream come true. This is just a small little snippet, a trailer of what you will see. I also want to extend a very, very heartfelt thank you to Jay Hoffman and Jen Knight and all the folks at the high school for all of your support through this entire process. It's been a very exciting year, and we really thank you for everything you've done as well. Thank you. Okay. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to address
Board members,
them.
any questions?
Questions, comments, board members? Students, you did an excellent job. I was on one of the first trips to China as a guest of the Hanban when this program was being set up, and to see it happening and to see all of you involved, especially my neighbors from Butler Road or my goddaughter or anybody else that's in the group there. Anyway, I'm so proud of you, and I'm so happy that it worked so well for you, and that our student guests had such a wonderful time as well, and that's because of your hard work, I know that.
Well, the final group I need to thank again are the host parents, of course. Barbara's here with us tonight. But the parents in this program were outstanding. They really, really went the extra yard for the kids and really made a big difference.
I think we should give Kelly a big hand.
Well, thank you.
I would just add, as one of the early proponents of the program, that you make us proud, and it's that kind of experience that we all had in mind, I think, when we voted to go forward with the Mandarin program 6 years or so ago. And I'll finish just by paraphrasing a famous quote you all have probably heard. You know, with great privilege comes great responsibility, and one of the things that we always envisioned to this program, knowing that it was going to be by nature limited in number of participants and that sort of thing, was for those who did participate to be able to share their impressions, whatever they were, to be able to help educate the rest of our communities locally and the rest of the communities that you know, interact with throughout the rest of your life, with the special knowledge that you've gained through this experience. So I leave you with that, and I say in advance, shay for doing that.
All right, yes, also, let me just conclude with thank you so much. Really, our trips, our work, our efforts were really about you. And the trail that you're blazing, I think you're the second group to go through. And I think it's really, really important to pass on the tradition now of what you have helped get started. So this is really important to everyone and future generations, as you said. One of you said that earlier. Strom, thank you so much for the video. That was wonderful. I just have to finish on one last question. Who was it that was wearing that Texas Longhorn hat? There you go. Attaboy. Okay, thank you all so much. Have a great summer, okay? Thank you again.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay, but if you want to get started on your summer, you're also welcome to go home now. All right, moving on. We have our board committee reports. We'll start with Board Education Committee. Nicki Snoblin.
The Education Committee has not met since our last board meeting, and we don't have any meetings scheduled for the summer.
Thank you, Nicki. Board Operations, Dick Block, and probably Board Finance, Jim Carey, because there was a joint meeting. So if you want to start, Dick.
Sure, because I'm going to say that the Board Operations Committee met in joint meeting with the Finance Committee on the morning of June 4th. Many of the items that we discussed you will see later on in tonight's meeting agenda for full board approval. And then I'll defer to Jim to give the details of our meeting with probably support from Alan.
Why don't we just go to the action items? And I think the simple statement would be that the Finance Committee and the Operations Committee voted in favor of recommending that we approve all of the action items. There's somewhere between 10 and 12 of them, so we were cranking them out pretty quickly that morning. But a lot of good information was discussed. And again, the boards, or the two committees, both recommended approval by the board of each one of the items. Thank you.
Since you didn't mention it, Jim, I will take the opportunity to mention, because it rarely meets the public light of day, so to speak, but there were some proposals that were not approved at the meeting. I can think of the replacement of driver ed cars, for instance. So just so the public knows, the committees and the board do not approve everything that comes its way, and that's just an example of that. We also discussed at some length the Diamond Anniversary Campaign Committee, but I think in response to the questions posed by Mr. Pete, I think the public's been brought up to date with what we discussed and what the status of that. So.
Thank you, Mr. Carey and Mr. Block. Moving on, then, we have our action items. There are no liaison reports, correct? All right. Action items. The first is the approval of the IASB board policies. This would be second reading. Dr. Griffith?
Board members, this is coming back to you a second time. This has been reviewed, developed, and is being presented by the Policy Committee. The three policies are in conjunction with District 67 with updating policies for cooperation with investigations, with respect to how to treat proceed forward with respect to when there is misconduct of a district employee, and a updated social media and electronic communications policy. Again, this was presented to the board and was approved prior on first reading, and now it appears to be ready for adoption and inclusion into our policy manuals.
Thank you, Dr. Griffith. Board members, is there a motion to approve the second reading of these policies?
So moved.
Second.
All right, is there any discussion?
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you to the Policy Committee and the administration for making the changes to the misconduct of district employee policy that was previously discussed, where now the board has the sort of the unilateral right and obligation to hire the independent investigator and hear from that investigator, and it fits exactly with what I wanted to see and addresses my concerns, and I thank you for that.
Any other questions or comments? All right, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the approval of the IASB board policies, and this would be first reading.
Yes, board members, these policies come to us through the press release, the subscription service that the Board of Education pays for with the Illinois Association of School Boards. These are updates. They're minor changes in our policies. Unlike the previous set that you just approved, more substantive in nature, these are updating not just legislative changes, but attorney general decisions, certain court decisions. Mostly they're footnote related. One or two policies are new, but again, they are replacing other policies that we currently have. There are a couple of options that are added. They don't seem to be needed by the board with respect to its own current practices. So unless you have specific questions about these policies, and again, they are very small changes to current policies, I would recommend that you consider adopting this also on second reading, and that would allow us to then move all of our policies to update our policy manuals with the School Board Association.
These policies were distributed to the members of the Policy Committee and have been read by them, and Dr. Griffith met with our attorney, Kendra, to go through them. They were also distributed to all of the administrators so that if there were any any input from them, that was also included. So these have been around and around, and it would be nice, some of these date back, we're falling a little bit behind, and it would be nice to clear these off our desks, but they have been read and they have been discussed, and so with that, I could ask for a motion to waive first reading.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of waiving first reading on the policies?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then I would ask for a motion to approve on second reading these policies.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any other discussion on these? Questions, footnotes? All right, all in favor of accepting these policies?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have the approval of the 2011-2012 final school calendar. Dr. Griffith?
Board members, when we have a year where no snow days are used, we're required to amend our calendar to the actual days we used for our students, and that then is given to the regional education office, and this is a perfunctory but necessary step to take each year, and so we're recommending that we present to the regional superintendent's office our final calendar of the year.
Is there a motion to approve the final school calendar for the year 2011-2012?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or discussion? All right, this is call. Okay, all in favor of approving the final school calendar for 2011-2012?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next is the approval of the 2012-2013 board meeting dates.
Okay, board members, this is your calendar for regular meetings for next year, 2012-13. It is typical of the calendar that you have this year, the second Tuesday of the month, with the exception of December, March, and now July. because of where the 4th of July is located. This has been shared with your Superintendent-elect Mike Simic also. So in keeping with past practice, this is your calendar that you would be adopting and then posted in advance of the year for the 2012-13 year.
Is there a motion to approve the 2012-2013 board meeting date calendar?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the approval of student fees. Dr. Griffith?
Yes, board members, I think the next 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 action items will just stay straight with Alan Albus. So Alan, please.
Normally, I don't like to read verbatim the cover memos in the packet, but in this case, I think it's appropriate in regard to student fees, so if you would bear with me. On June 4th, at a joint meeting of the Finance and Operations Committees, a discussion was held regarding fee philosophy and the 2012-13 fee recommendations. Based on that discussion, the 2012-13 fee recommendations include a 0% increase on the mandatory tech consumable fee and the driver education fee, a 2.5% increase rounded to the nearest dollar on optional fees of athletic participation, extracurricular activities, parking, and transportation, an increase in food service revenue of 2.5%, which will be developed by staff through a combination of price adjustments on a variety of items sold, an elimination of the athletic participation family cap, and a 26% reduction in the Young Idea magazine fee, as this is a pass-through cost. The recommended increases are based on a historical analysis of the percent of expenses that fees offset. Despite holding fees flat for the last several years, the expense offset did not begin to drop until the 10-11 school year. The intent in raising fees for the 2012-13 year is to limit or mitigate any future decline from existing levels of expense offset. In looking beyond the 2013 recommendations, the committees also discussed reviewing data at future meetings to develop guidelines or targets of expenditure defrayments from fees in the various categories. So that will be one of the actions that likely both committees will be looking at as we go into 2013. So with that, we recommend your consideration and approval of the fee recommendations as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Albus. May I have a motion to approve the student fees?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it has been moved and seconded. Board members, do you have any questions or comments to make on this?
I just want to thank Alan for his patience, particularly with me after we went through this process last year and fees were held flat for, I think, the 4th consecutive year. I wrote a fairly lengthy and mind-numbing note to Alan about the process used for determining what to do with fees, and he's been very patient and worked with all of us, I think, to get a better understanding of how these things can be thought about differently and how family caps and things like that impact revenues and the one piece that I think we still have some work to do on is the books and how those costs that are so volatile to or variable among our students can be kind of normalized across the population, and we'll get there. So thank you.
That mind-numbing email was a great catalyst, though, for the committee discussion and really led to, I think, some good targets going forward in the future. So it shows the committee process works well.
If I could just make some additional comments as well, to shed a little additional light on the situation. As Alan mentioned, the recommendation is that there be a 0% increase in mandatory fees, namely the technology consumables fee, and that's a fee that every student, every family is forced to pay who's enrolled in Lake Forest High School. And while the committees realize that the district has become dependent on fees as a source of relatively significant amount of income on the one hand, on the other, there is sympathy for a strategy wherein over the long term we do what we can to reduce or even eliminate mandatory fees that apply to all students while maintaining roughly the same percentage in voluntary activities such as athletics and these other types of things, bus transportation and what have you. So I think it's fair to say that at least between the Finance Committee and the Operations Committee, that's the sentiment that was expressed, and that's why you see a 0% recommended increase for the mandatory fees and a small increase in the other fees to maintain sort of the historical level of funding as a percentage of the total in each of their respective areas.
Thank you, Mr. Block. All right, any other questions or comments? Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the student fees. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have the approval of the CLIC Property and Casualty Insurance Policy Renewal.
Okay, and board members, this is Jennifer Hermes who will present this one.
Thank you. This is really an example of shared services at its best. Lake Forest High School participates in CLIC, which is a cooperation with 164 other school districts for the purpose of obtaining property and liability insurance. So really trying to kind of maximize our purchasing power by a cooperative nature. They did go out to bid and received renewals from 6 different property carriers. We're looking at an increase next year of 8.7%, which is really mirroring a nationwide trend, which they are attributing primarily to the tornadoes and some of those natural disasters, not hurricanes, but more Midwestern type of events. So we are recommending that increase. Also on that policy, there is a foreign liability policy. So when our students come to us and present that they went to China for 2 weeks, we actually do have coverage on them. That would be the same to any of our exchange programs. And you'll see that that policy is included on here, which also had an increase of just over 8%. So we're recommending that for approval this evening.
Thank you, Jennifer. Is there a motion to approve the property and casualty insurance policy? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Board members, do you have any questions or comments on this?
Jennifer, we are part of a collective.
Yes, we are.
How many schools are participating in that collective?
164. It's a very large group.
Any other? Go ahead.
Sorry. So we share in this, there are lost funds and other things that are increasing more than the overall 8%, I think. Just looking at the numbers on this, where premiums have gone down, and I don't want to get into the weeds too much on it, but just so I'm clear, when we're asked to fund certain things into this program, we're impacted by the collective, just the nature of a group like this, is that we're impacted by the negative loss experience of our partners, correct?
We share in the good times and we share in the bad times, which is trying to normalize that a little bit across.
Is this a fully insured program, or is there some self-funding in it?
I believe that there is some self-funding in it. Yeah, our deductible is $25,000, but and actually one of the biggest loss leaders actually for schools is floods, surprisingly enough, in the co-op.
I think what you said about the nature of the market is accurate, but I'm curious about whether or not there's ever an attempt or an opportunity to stress test this is the right word, or to market the program independent of the group to see what a standalone alternative might look like, just to see whether or not this pricing is consistent with what the market has.
We would have the opportunity, when you're part of the co-op, you do have a 3-year commitment, so you would have an opportunity, basically, if you wanted to make an attempt to test the market on your own, we could do that. We'd have to see when our next opportunity was, because obviously as a cooperative, you wouldn't want people jumping in and out on a yearly basis.
Other questions? All right, it's been moved and seconded. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Snoblin?
Aye.
Mr. Block?
Aye.
Mr. Edson?
Aye.
Mr. Burgener?
Aye.
Mr. Carey?
Aye.
Mr. Scribner?
Aye.
Mrs. Golan?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Next is the approval of the CLIC Workers' Compensation Insurance Policy Renewal.
Very similar, except this is a smaller group. 124 school districts participate in the workers' comp cooperative. And this one also does have a very specific, if you look on your renewal page, a component where you can see our experience factor, which was anything less than 1 is typically reflective of a pretty good experience compared to the group's norm. We actually are at a 0.89. However, the overall premiums and things are increasing 5.04%, which is less than I think the nationwide trend right now is about around 7. We've had decent experience the last few years.
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on this item? All right, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Block?
Aye.
Mr. Carey?
Aye.
Mr. Edson?
Aye.
Mr. Burgener?
Aye.
Mrs. Snoblin?
Aye.
Mr. Scribner?
Aye.
Mrs. Golan?
Aye. Motion carries. Next is the approval of the Instant Alert contract renewal.
Instant Alert really does not get the use that we would hope because Dr. Griffith really doesn't approve a whole lot of snow days. As you've just seen by his calendar that we just had to amend, no snow day again this year. Instant Alert, we use for our instant communication to our parents and staff and anyone else that would like those alerts. We do use it very heavily with athletics and the teams. That's probably our largest use between both districts. It's a flat $2.20 per student. With our declining enrollment, then our overall cost is going down for next year 2%.
I remember before this when the APT members were each given several pages and you had to make anywhere from 40 to 60 phone calls in less than an hour and let the parents know what was going on. These are dollars well spent, I must say. All right, is there a motion to approve the Instant Alert contract renewal?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or comments? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Scribner?
Aye.
Mrs. Snoblin?
Aye.
Mr. Edson?
Aye.
Mr. Block?
Aye.
Mr. Burgener?
Aye.
Mr. Carey?
Aye.
Mrs. Golan?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Next is the approval of the custodial contract renewal. Mr. Albus?
In August of 2009, a contract was awarded to GCA Services for custodial cleaning. The contract had an option to renew annually up to 4 additional one-year terms. We've been very happy with GCA as a vendor of ours. I will remind you, a year ago, we went to GCA with a plan to go to a rolling schedule of cleaning classrooms. In other words, in a 5-day period, a classroom would be cleaned 4 of the 5 nights, and 20% of the rooms a night would not be cleaned. And that was in an effort to save a little more than $100,000 as we were seeing declines in interest earnings, new construction, state revenues. GCA came back to us and said, we'll achieve the savings that you're looking for, but let us do the management of it. We'll clean every room every night, but we'll make some decisions based on weather, usage, and other things about other parts that we clean. And I really haven't seen a drop-off in the quality of service in the building. They've been great to work with, and they're very responsive when we have concerns or questions. The request is for an increase of 3.2%, which is a little bit more than CPI, but as you see in there, it's also, they're attributing that to increases in insurance. One of the things we do in the bid is require them to offer insurance to their employees, which we really believe helps in the turnover rate. And when we don't have a lot of turnover, we get much more consistency in service and knowledge of the buildings. So that comes back to benefit us. So we would recommend your consideration and approval of the request as presented.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the custodial contract renewal?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Board members, any questions or comments for Mr. Albus?
I just would remind the board that when, back in 2009, we negotiated this most recent contract, we saw major changes in the contract, and I think these people work with us very constructively. You might remember we talked about going maybe to a 4-day schedule, what have you. They said, no, no, no. We can give you the same savings by not doing that and deliver the same quality product. They saved us about 50 grand a year, as I remember.
100.
Was it 100? Maybe, okay. Am I thinking both districts, 100 maybe? Or?
No, that was at the high school. The elementary's a little different animal.
Well, whatever. They've helped us out considerably, and while the increase might be slightly above CPI, it's not out of the ballpark of being reasonable, and I would certainly recommend approval.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. May I have a roll call, please?
Mrs. Snoblin?
Aye.
Mr. Edson?
Aye.
Mr. Carey?
Aye.
Mr. Burgener?
Aye.
Mr. Scribner?
Aye.
Mr. Block?
Aye.
Mrs. Golan?
Aye, motion carries. Next is the approval of the waste recycling contract renewal.
I got myself out of order.
Oh, no.
In May 2011, the board awarded a contract to Waste Management. It was a 1-year contract to renew annually for up to 2 years. We've got a little bit of a timing problem here in that our contract expires on June 30th, and in communications with Waste Management, we've been informed that they're potentially looking at an increase of around 3% to begin in September, but they have not finalized that yet. So as you can see in your packet, the letter from them spells that out, but we're approaching this as we're going to incur a 3% increase beginning September 1. So on an annual basis, it's a little bit less than that. But again, we'd recommend approval with Waste Management Services.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the waste recycling contract?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Board members, are there any questions for Mr. Albus or comments?
Ellen, is that CPI increase not to exceed 3%?
Not to exceed. Wait. When I read it of no more than 3%, I don't know that it's CPI. We'll have to clarify that with them. But again, that when we contacted them, the response was, we haven't set that yet. We're looking at up to a 3% increase for cost of living.
Any other questions? All right, it's been moved and seconded. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Edson?
Aye.
Mr. Block?
Aye.
Mr. Burgener?
Aye.
Mrs. Snoblin?
Aye.
Mr. Carey?
Aye.
Mr. Scribner?
Aye.
Mrs. Golan?
Aye, motion carries. Next is the approval of the towel contract.
For years, the district has received towel cleaning services from National Towel Service, but that company is going out of business. So we've had to seek out a new vendor. Carol White had obtained 2 quotes, one from Aramark, one from Lechner and Sons. The Aramark quote was actually lower, but when it came time to formalize that and put it into writing in a contract, they were reluctant to do that. So Carol is making a recommendation for Lechner and Sons. I would like to point out we've been spending $24,000 a year with National School Towel. This contract is for $12,843, but this is for pickup and drop off 3 days a week, not 5 days. So if you scale it back, it's really in line with the National School Towel, but it will save us money by scaling back to 3 days a week.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the towel contract?
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? All right, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Block?
Aye.
Mr. Burgener?
Aye.
Mr. Carey?
Aye.
Mr. Edson?
Aye.
Mrs. Snoblin?
Aye.
Mr. Scribner?
Aye.
Mrs. Golan?
Aye, motion carries. Next, we have the approval of Whipple Consulting contract. Dr. Griffith or Mr.
I'm going
Albus?
to ask Jen Hermes if she would help with these next three action items.
And of course, I don't have my iPad today, so I don't have them in front of me because Kathy didn't include them in my pack. But we did work with, we have 3 consultants. You'll see them there, the next 3 action items on your agenda. Ann Whipple does provide Director of Communications services to us, and what we're recommending is basically a minor increase with the same terms that she has operated under previously.
Right. Is there a motion to approve Whipple Consulting contract?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, are there any questions or comments, board members?
I have a question. I noted in that contract, there's no definition of the term of the contract. Just specifies an amount payable per month. Is this a one-year contract?
This is an annual contract.
Yeah, it doesn't spell that out in the agreement itself, and I wondered why not.
I wish I had a copy in front of me, but I believe it should be on the top. It says from July 1st, 2012 through.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments, board members?
I was under the impression that we would consider tabling this and the next 2 until September, which is the meeting that we historically approve these, so that the review and approval can occur under Mike Simick's term here, rather than 2 weeks before it starts for contracts that are intended to effectively begin in service 3 months into his position here.
I would second that comment. I just think it would be more appropriate to table these for the time being and allow Mr. Simick to weigh in. The contracts generally are for 10 months of service, and the implication at least is that would not include the period from, say, now to mid-August, I presume, the period that school is out in round numbers. And I don't mean anything negative whatsoever with regard to Ms. O'Hara or Mr. DeBose or Mrs. Whipple. It just seems appropriate to me, the contractual service going forward here, that we wait until Mike has the opportunity to weigh in and do what he wants to do. I mean, maybe it's a year contract, maybe it's a 2-year contract, maybe it's a 6-month contract, I don't know, but just seems to me to be the more appropriate way to go.
I know there were some questions from Todd, and Dr. Griffith did share those questions and comments with Mr. Simick, who sent back an email, and I'll read it to you. It says, "Ann is indispensable to me as a new superintendent. From what I have seen, she has a read on the community that no other administrator other than Harry has. I am not familiar with in any kind of depth with Kathy's work. That said, it is extraordinarily unlikely that I would make any kind of change in substance by September involving a contract. I have bigger fish to fry, frankly. In addition, I trust Harry's judgment implicitly and explicitly on his personnel, as he appears to have put exceptional people in place from all I've seen. My assessment would be that if Harry thinks that running with these contracts now is a good idea, then it should be done. In Berkeley, I am tying up as many of these things as possible for my successor as well. Harry is hired to make operational decisions, and personnel is one of those." So.
Shall I read the response that I made to that and the response that I got from Mike subsequently? Or is that just beating a dead horse? I think
Well, why don't we do have a motion on the, we have a motion, it's been moved and seconded, so if we want to take things off, we would have to have a motion to take them off once once they've been put on the agenda. So if someone wants.
Well, I think you would want to make sure everybody's had a chance to, have their.
Yeah, that's just the parliamentary side of it.
Right.
Yeah, certainly, if you have other comments, feel free.
Yeah.
I responded to Mike's note last night to tell him that I, in effect, wholeheartedly agree that the 3 people that these contracts apply to are terrific assets to the district. However, the contracts that are before us tonight have historically been brought to this board in September, and that approving them 2 weeks before the end of the current superintendent's term creates an appearance of something other than what is certainly intended. And I think it would be very easy to avoid those appearances, and Mike's response to me was, again, deferring, but clearly making the point that he's not aware of any issues with these things. We're certainly closer to it than he is, and agreed that deeper consideration was in order.
Okay, other board members? All right, it's been moved and seconded, and if you choose not to go forward, then we vote it down, and then I would need a motion to remove these items from the agenda.
Madam President, I'm confused. Are we going to vote yes or no on the contracts?
Finish the motion. That it has been moved and seconded for this one. And then after that, we would have to move to table it and any other items that were posted on the agenda.
Sharon, I think, now, if the motion doesn't carry, then there's just no action taken, so you wouldn't need to do any other action. Let me just say, I think it's kind of you can call it either way. Last year and the year before, we brought these contracts in September. All three of these contracts do start up before we get to the September meeting. They provide a pretty important service, all three of them, to us. I was under the direction of the board to try to get as many of the things out of the way as possible. I don't have a dog in the hunt here, other than I feel that it would, as Mike has said, he'll want to do a program review of all of these service areas, but for him to accomplish that his first 60 days on the job is literally probably impossible with the start of school in 2 school districts, still negotiating other contracts with our teachers, really trying to get some things out of the way to help him. But on the other hand, if it's a priority of the board to do that, then of course, I think Mike would be responding to that too.
As a point of procedure, I think that I, as the person who made the motion, could agree to withdraw that motion. I have to say that I won't support tabling this. I think we should move forward. I think that we would be creating or encouraging a perception that is not accurate, rather than just tidying up some business that our incoming superintendent has already said he's okay with. However, if the board would like to be able to vote on all 3 of these contracts as to whether or not to table them for the next meeting, I am willing to withdraw my motion. Is that what you'd like, how you'd like to proceed, and then we can decide whether or not we're tabling them?
I would appreciate that.
I would as well.
Okay, well, I don't know the proper wording, but I will agree. I will withdraw my motion to approve this contract pending a motion to table.
Is there
Thank you, Nick.
You can, I mean, I think if the board agrees with it, you can change your motion to anything you want. If you wanted to.
Well, I'm not going to make the motion to table it because I'm not in agreement with that. But if one of those who does feel that way wishes to make that motion, I think now would be the time.
Right, Mrs. Snoblin has withdrawn her motion. Are there any other motions?
I would move to table this contract and the 2 following it until the September meeting.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All right. I'm against tabling them because of conversations that I've had through this transition phase with Mr. Simic, and he was supportive of them. I believe the contracts are up at the end of this month, is that correct? End of June. In the past, we've gone ahead, as we have with the other contracts, and we've approved them. So I would be in favor of approving these 3 contracts. They're almost up, and Mr. Simic agreed with me, but I will defer to the rest of the board members on this issue.
I believe all 3 of the contracts are 10-month contracts, and as they read, have effective work terms that begin in September and run through June. Is that not the case?
That is not correct. Cornelius is a 12-month year-round.
Okay.
And I believe Ann's runs, I want to say 10 or 11. And Kathy O'Hara's does more realistically mirror the school calendar.
Is that right?
Each is a little different.
All 3 are a little different.
There.
Consultant will serve 10 months per year. I'm reading from the Whipple contract right now.
Okay, it's been moved and
Cornelius's
seconded.
contract
Let
is
me,
225 days per year, just so you know.
Which is a full year.
It's been moved and seconded to table items, are you saying table items 12, 13, and 14?
Yes.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll do a roll call just to keep it simple. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Carey?
Aye.
Mrs. Snoblin?
No.
Mr. Edson?
Aye.
Mr. Block?
Aye.
Mr. Scribner?
Aye.
Mr. Burgener?
Aye.
Mrs. Golan?
No. Motion carries. Then we will move on to item 15, approval of human resources report.
Board members, no real report. You can see we don't have a lot of action at this time, so unless you have any questions of Jennifer Knight, we're making this recommendation as presented.
Also, Jennifer said she didn't have any witticisms to share with us tonight, so we're... All right, then moving on, we have the consent agenda. Is there any item that a board member would like to have removed from the consent agenda at this time? Since there aren't any, the consent agenda includes A, the approval of the athletic trainer contract renewal, B, approval of the Michigan State University contract for Mandarin teacher, C, the approval of prevailing wage, D, approval of appointment of IMRF agent, E, approval of resolution for treasurer, F, adoption of resolution for budget transfer, G, approval of, financial report and schedule of checks written, H, approval of minutes of a regular meeting from May 8th, 2012, an executive meeting from May 8th, 2012, minutes of a special meeting from May 23rd, 2012, and there are no audio recordings to dispose of. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Block?
Aye.
Mrs. Snoblin?
Aye.
Mr. Edson?
Aye.
Mr. Carey?
Aye.
Mr. Burgener?
Aye.
Mr. Scribner?
Aye.
Mrs. Golan?
Aye. Consent agenda carries. Next, we have 3 FOIA requests. The first was from Lisa Black of the Chicago Tribune, the second from Mr. Michael Beecham, and the third from Mr. Michael Beecham. Board members, are there any future agenda items you would like to have included? Oops, I thought we didn't have one. Okay, I'd made an oops. FOIA requests, human services. One moment. Is there a motion to approve the human resources report going backwards
So
on
moved.
the agenda?
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. May I, roll call vote, please?
Mr. Burgener?
Aye.
Mr. Block?
Aye.
Mr. Carey?
Aye.
Mr. Edson?
Aye.
Mrs. Snoblin?
Aye.
Mr. Scribner?
Aye.
Mrs. Golan?
Aye. Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Barrett. FOIA requests, FOIA agenda items, announcements. Our next Board of Education meeting will be July 17th at 7 o'clock here in the West Campus Boardroom featuring Mr. Michael Simic. And with that, I would like to bid a fond farewell to Dr. Griffith. It's going to be very strange to be sitting here with somebody else beside me. We've worked together now for 18 years, and while I look forward to working with Mr. Simic, it's going to be a big change for all of us and for the district, so congratulations.
Thank you. I've been saying yes, ma'am, for 18 years is what you meant.
Yes, he has.
But, you know, to Dick and John and Nicki and Todd and, you know, Monty and Jim and Sharon, certainly, good luck to all of you. I think you're going to have a good experience with Mike. There are going to be positive changes coming up, too. So, you know, best wishes to all of you.
So, Harry, will you come and sit in the audience in July? We'll miss you.
No, I think I'm gonna help Mike get a little bit of breathing room, so I won't do that. I'll be talking with him. You know, he'll want some background, so no, I won't be submitting any FOIA requests either. Wherever
we
Mike
won't be answering any from you.
Yeah, wherever Mike needs any help, I'll be glad to help him too. So
We're hoping
only the
Harry,
best, all of you.
Harry joins the Glee Club again.
That's right, he
Just
can still do Glee
small
Club.
point of clarification, though. I suspect this is not your last board meeting. I suspect we will have a board meeting next week. It won't be a regular meeting, but it will be a special meeting.
That's
We
true.
expect you to be there.
Then with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn this
So moved.
meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.